SaaS and related options. We learned about how to deal with fixings, functions, reporting, and using. Now today we are going to start understanding and working with JQuery. We'll start working with JQuery. So after knowing about JavaScript, one of the major issues with JavaScript actually, JavaScript is a language. JavaScript is a language, and a lot of DOM manipulations, and a lot of references, and a lot of coding, and compatibility issues. So these are all major issues with the JavaScript language, compatibility issues. So a lot of functions, lot of manipulations, references, coding. Application becomes heavy applications because of all these things. Now, the important point is to reduce all this. So, in 2006, John Resig, he introduced a library called Java jQuery. Technically, in computer technologies, library means it contains predefined functions. That means for every purpose, you don't need to write lengthy logic. Ready-made functions are present. You have to just use them. This makes the development process more easy. This makes the development process simplified. So, in JavaScript, lot of references and logic you have to write. This is simplified. That is the reason jQuery came with a slogan concept called write less and do more. That is the main theme of jQuery actually. Write less, do more. And if for a person who know JavaScript, jQuery is very simple, nothing complex. Whatever available in JavaScript, it is there in jQuery. Only the point is the way of writing logic is simplified. That makes performance better. That means clean separation, and better performance, and reduces compatibility issues, and very important is so less memory. However, general libraries need some memory, but when compared to the JavaScript based applications, it is better. So in real time projects, majority in development, so in the development process, we use jQuery only. We will not directly use JavaScript, very less. For example, you see, suppose any website and some functionalities in that particular website. If you look at any website, let's open here. Suppose we have some Google, and when I open this Google and right click and inspect, and you go to the elements in the head section, you can see script, and you can see this is all jQuery, not JavaScript is improving the performance, but majority JavaScript functions only will be there, but in a simplified way. Variable data types, operators, statements, everything similar. Some shortcut techniques are there which makes better and easy also, that we will see. But the main point about jQuery is to reduce the effort of JavaScript. So that developers can write less and do more work. So in real world development, everywhere we use jQuery only. So you have learned a lot of examples in JavaScript. We have designed so many examples. All those examples, you have to now change to jQuery. You have to try them in jQuery now. You have to do it by yourself now. I will show you the technique of jQuery, then examples, everything, what you learned there that you have to implement here. This is important. Now we will see how to use this jQuery, how it can simplify the process, how it can handle. Let's see. For that, you have to install jQuery in your project, and already jQuery is installed in our project. You can see already jQuery is installed in our project because we installed jQuery for Bootstrap, because Bootstrap requires jQuery. That is the reason. Already we have jQuery ready. That means jQuery is already installed in your project. You have to start using it. Otherwise, we have to manually install jQuery by running npm install jQuery. But already we done this. Already we installed jQuery while working with Bootstrap. So you can now simply try working with it. So what you have to do now is, let's go to the project here. I will create a folder, jQuery examples. Okay, let's create a page, home.html. Now I want to use jQuery in this page. So let's create a document and title jQuery and body, and we have a heading. Okay. Now I want jQuery to be used here. Then I will just put a script. Source, it is in node modules, jQuery list, jQuery.js. That is the core jQuery file, which already we were using in Bootstrap. Already we know this file, jQuery file, and that is jQuery.js. Next, I want to start using jQuery in this page. In every page where you need jQuery, you have to link this. Observe this jQuery.js file. So then what I will do, I will go to node modules, jQuery, open that this jQuery.js file. This is the code. And observe carefully, the jQuery version is 3.6, which is the latest version we have. And you see, this entire library is designed in a parenthesis like this. In a parenthesis, you see, in a parenthesis, you have a function. Everything is kept inside that parenthesis. And it is called immediately. It is called immediately. And of course, no need to explain. You people know the meaning of this. So what does this means? What does this means? It is what kind of function? What do you say? What kind of function it is? What is that function called as? What is that function called as? Everything is kept in a parenthesis. What is that function called as? Yeah, good. It is called as anonymous function. Very good. So it is called as anonymous function, right? Um, that tells that you learned a little bit JavaScript, right? So you have this function, anonymous function. Usually, to call the anonymous functions, already we know that anonymous function is called. So here this is an anonymous function. Usually anonymous function is called with a parenthesis. And entire JQuery related classes, actually JQuery.js, this contains a module actually. All the library of JQuery is accessible. Actually, it is imported everything as dollar. That's how it is defined. That means the point this sentence meaning is in this jQuery.js file, whatever the functions are defined. That means this dollar refers to jQuery core library. In that jQuery core library, you are calling the jQuery function because jQuery is an anonymous function defined in an anonymous function. So that is the reason in jQuery, every function is accessible by using reference it is used because actually all the functions are imported and imported functions are kept, imported functions are defined inside this. Imported functions are defined inside this dollar reference. You have to access with the dollar reference. So here in our home.html, we have to write a script, and in this script, we have to invoke jQuery, then dollar parenthesis. This dollar parenthesis is referring to complete jQuery. That means it is importing complete jQuery. And as you already saw here, jQuery is an anonymous function. You need a function, and here you have to define the functionality. Whatever functionality you want, you have to define. This is one technique. That means you can write in this way. This will load jQuery and keep it in the memory. It will load jQuery and keep it in the memory so that whenever you want, you can access and you can use it. There is another technique. So you can write like this, or you can also write like this. So document.ready and a callback function. This is another technique. Actually, you can use any of these two because difference is nothing but the first one will load your library and keep it ready before the body section loaded, before the body section loaded. So that is before the body section loaded. 1 second. Okay. So before the body section is loaded, before the body section is loaded, this will execute. First one will execute. But sometimes we want the function to execute, some functional to happen after body loaded. So in that case, we write like this: document.ready indicates DOM content loaded. This indicates DOM content loaded after the DOM content loaded. This one indicates before DOM content loaded. So it depends on situation. Sometimes we want some functionality to happen before DOM loaded. Sometimes we want after it loaded. But majority of the times, so we need some functions before loaded. That is the reason we have an habit of writing the first syntax. Of course, majority of times in online tutorials everywhere, wherever you will see people sometimes writing like this also, because they want after DOM loaded. That depends on their requirement. So we will follow this first one. Anything is okay. We can follow this first one. Okay, that means now JQuery is ready. I want JQuery to take control of HTML elements. And in JQuery, DOM reference is very simple. That means referring elements in JQuery, it's very simple. You can use dollar and you can use your selector. You can use your selector. Dollar and selector. Remember, this selector can be any CSS selector. Any CSS selector means you learned so many selectors in CSS, you can use any of them. You learned so many selectors in CSS, you can use any of them. That means so many selectors you have learned, you can use any of them. Means you can use type selector, you can use ID selector, you can use class selector, you can use child selector. So that means attribute selector, descendant selector, etc. Everything. That means simply, so suppose I want to access this heading and it is not having an ID, then what you can do is simply you can access $H1. That's it. That's it. You can simply access it. Suppose if it is having an ID, then we can use $H like this. If it is having a class, then $H like this. So that means, for example, heading is normal. Below that, we have a child heading, heading 2. It have an ID as child head, or say heading 2, heading 2. Okay. And we have a P, paragraph. It have a class called para. Now I want jQuery to access these elements. Generally, how JavaScript access the elements? JavaScript access the elements by using document get element by ID, get element by tag name, class name, query selector. We learned so many. Here, very simple. What we have to do here is simply dollar. So H1, that is heading 1. And into that, we want to display some text. We can just use text. I will tell you those methods, text methods and all listed here. Generally, in our JavaScript, if you want to display any inside a literal, then we use inner HTML or we use inner text, inner HTML or inner text. Here in jQuery, it is simply HTML and it is simply text. You can simple use these methods. That means now see text. Here I am typing welcome to jQuery. jQuery. That is one. Second, after that dollar hash heading 2. This is second heading. Dot text. I will display as write less, do more. Write less, do more. I am writing like this. And third one, dollar I am accessing dot para. And so in the text, so a library, jQuery is a library for a library of JavaScript. A library for JavaScript is a library for JavaScript. That's, I will save this now. So reference is very simple now. All the references I will show you. This is simple. You can use your CSS selectors directly. And you can see now when I run this page, you can see jQuery is taking control and displaying. So welcome to jQuery, write less, do more is a library. So this, remember, we don't need any event like currently, body load and all not required also. Later we will use them, but initially this is simple. So whatever you learned in JavaScript, you have to use here now. But the approach is little bit different. It's very simple. Handling the data, presenting the data is very simple, very simple. For that, I will show you a simple logic here. That means how that interaction will work. That means now you need to know. So referring elements in HTML, HTML elements in jQuery is simple. You are using this selector and we are displaying. Here for DOM manipulation, jQuery DOM manipulation methods are very simple. What are DOM manipulation methods? DOM manipulation methods, we have HTML, we have text, we have val, so we have attr, attribute, we have properties, so we have append, we have append to, we have like prepend, we have prepend, so we have before, we have after, all these after, we have CSS, we have animate, all these are all the functions. We have like detach, so detach like that, we have like clear, all these options are there. So many simple jQuery manipulation functions are present. That means these methods are used for easily handling your manipulations. So easily configuring the manipulations and handling the manipulations. So jQuery DOM manipulation methods are important for us. DOM manipulation methods are important for us. And DOM manipulation methods, HTML is inner HTML, text is inner text, val is used for accessing the value of that element, attr is used to access the attribute of that element, prop is used to access the property of that element, prepend, append will add, so towards the end, append to adds an element to another element, child, just like we used append child. Prepend will add left side, before will add above, after will add below, like that. I will show you. That means here one more important is here no need of no need of need of creating, no need of creating element element dynamically, no need of creating element dynamically with document dot document dot document dot create element. This is not required. Document dot create element is not required. It's very simple. Let's create one example and see so that you can understand. We don't need that create element. Directly you can create an element. You can directly create an element and configure an element. For example, here, see, I'm going to this design. Okay. So let's create a simple form, which we already know. I will create a simple form and you will find how it is more clean in the presentation and simple. Let's create a form here. I will temporarily put bootstrap link also here. Yeah, link relation is equal to style sheet and href is equal to node modules. So bootstrap dist css bootstrap css. Okay, now in the body I will keep container fluid. Okay, and here we are designing a div class row and a div, so class call 3. Okay, and a div some class as call 9, and the left side we will create a form data list data term, some name, and input type is equal to text. Okay, id as name. Okay, similarly price and data definition input type is equal to text and id as some price. Okay, and another one ship to and data definition select and option some Delhi and Hyderabad. Okay, so and this have an id as city. Okay, one more, we have stock and input type is equal to checkbox, id is equal to stock, and say yes. This is the basic design we have, and I will keep the classes are same, no need to define them. Form control, so the class as form control and the class as form select. Yep, and this class as form check, form switch, and switch, and form check input, form check input. Okay, now you see here we are having a button, so register. Okay, this is the button, and now let's keep btn and btn primer w100. Okay, this is the register button we are having. Now when user enters the details, we want to collect the details and display beside or somewhere else we want to display in a pop-up or somewhere. What now, earlier in JavaScript lot of references we have to do. That means get element by ID, text box, dot value, get the value and put it in a label. You see now, right side, we are creating a data list. So data term, name, data definition, LBL name, another price, and the ID as LBL price, and shipped to, and ID as LBL shipped as LBL city, and stock, the ID as LBL stock, and this is the details here we want to display there. Okay, now you know already in JavaScript what we have done, means how to write the same thing in JavaScript we already know. How how this is managed in JQuery, now you have to see. Now we need to write everything on button click. Earlier, for writing for button click, you see this is button. Currently I have only one button, so even if it is not having an ID, we don't care. Another point, earlier what we have to do is in the button we have to write click is equal to point towards the function. But now what is advantage of jQuery is your UI becomes more clean. In UI, only UI is present. Your UI becomes very much clean. The UI contains only UI. Then how to write events? Simple. Script events are same. Only the point is we don't write on click. We write directly click. We don't write on change. We write change. So all JavaScript events are same. Only the point here we are having click and change. Events related details also I will tell you. Events no change, same all JavaScript events only. We write like this, but see how we write is in the script location here in the function dollar here button, because I have only one button, it will use that button, and dot click like this, dot click. That means on the button click. So we will write a callback function and we have to tell the functionality. That's it. What is advantage of this is your code is separated from the UI part. In the UI, there are no traces of any code. Code related information is nothing provided there. Code related information is nothing provided there. Everything is only UI. Code is present in the separate script element here. Okay, on button click, what to do? It's very simple. So collect the value from this name text box and display in LBL name. So here we have to write in this way, dollar hash LBL name dot HTML. That means inside it. Inside it, I have to access dollar again hash name dot val. It will get the value of text box. That's it. This is the simple method. Actually, you can collect them and store in a separate variable and use them. But that is not required now. You can directly get the value and you can directly add that value into that label. Similarly, dollar hash LBL price dot HTML. So dollar hash price dot val, it will get the price. Similarly, city also simple, lbl city dot val html. In that we have to display, that is city dot val. It will get the value of drop down. Now very important, hash we have to use. Yeah, another important is checkbox, but checkbox depends on stock checked property, not value. Then what we have to do is status, where status is equal to dollar, here hash stock, stock dot prop indicates property. Which property? Property name. So that is this will get the property status. So it will return the status true or false. It will return the true or false. It will return the status true or false, and it will display the status. So we are accessing the checked property. If it is checked, then it is true. You can access directly and use it. You can also compare. So means directly you can compare and display. That means I can write like this. So if condition, if stock dot property dot checked, if it is checked, then I want to display some message. If it is checked, then I have to display hash stock, hash lbl stock. So lbl stock, lbl stock dot html, it should display as available, available. Otherwise it should display else, else. So we are defining else, and dollar hash lbl stock dot html, it should say out of stock. That message should come. You can directly write the condition. If stock property checked, so then available, otherwise it is not. But still here observe carefully. I am entering the name, I am entering the price, selecting the state, and then select the stock and click register. So those details will come. And turn off, then it says out of stock. I am changing this and it will display. So this is more easy. This is more easy for handling your data interactions. Earlier, the same work requires lot of DOM manipulation. We need lot of DOM manipulation related commands. DOM manipulation commands are required for that. Now your reference technique is simple. So that is the reason we call this write less, do more. Same thing we can achieve with our JavaScript also, but lengthy process. It makes it simplified. So we have to handle by accessing the attributes, by accessing the values, by using the property, by accessing the properties. We can use inner HTML, inner text. We can display wherever we want. Now, if we know this, then we know how to collect the data from various controls. Now, the key point is how it will simplify adding the content, removing the content, updating the content. Like for example, say, I will show you a simple approach here. This is one example. Save. And let's create another page. Demo.html, and let's link simple head and title and the script source. So node modules JQuery test jQuery.js, and we have to put the body section. and already we have in the body a heading, or we have some paragraph, and to this paragraph you observe here we are writing script and a dollar function, and we are accessing p paragraph dot append. That means this must be appended into a div. Directly you write that element div. That means you have to directly define that div. So what content you want to append? Suppose I am appending, so this is div, and so here we have this is paragraph. This is paragraph. In the paragraph already some information is present, and we are adding this is div additionally into this. Now usually when you run this, you can see here this is paragraph and this is div, and observe here I am adding inspect. You can see in the elements the paragraph is added to that. To the paragraph we are adding div. Append will add into it. We can also use options like you can append any sentence. So you can also use options like so before. So that means we can use before. We can use before means it will go above. That means this will be added before the paragraph. We can also use the options like append, after. After will print after. So we can also use the option like so prepend. So actually prepend is nothing but the prepend is left side, but actually paragraph means it will have a line break automatically. That is the reason. So if you put normal text, so normal text, so this normal text prepend means it will be left side. Prepend means it will be left side. It will be added left side. Append means, suppose if I use append means it will use right side. It will add right side. So before means means before means it is added above, and after means it will added below. Like this you can change the hierarchies. So adding elements is very easy now, and now once you know how to add elements, that means you don't need to create element. So document dot create element, that is not required. Without that you can directly add the element and you can define it. We can directly configure it. So that is the advantage. How this becomes easy in presentation I will show you now. So observe carefully. We have an ordered list. Let's create a variable. Categories is equal to, it's an array. So electronics, so footwear, fashion, like this. We want to add these into that ordered list. Then you know previously what to do. Previously adding these is a lengthy task. What we have to do, we have to create a element li, add item into it, then append. I showed you the process, no need to explain. Already I showed you how it is very painful in JavaScript, because we have to write a lot of elements creation. But see how it is simple in jQuery. Actually, for iterations also we have a method. Before that I will show you ordinary. For where item of category, that means where category of categories, that means it is reading every category. Now what we have to do is that category must be added as a list item into this order list. So dollar, here use a expression li, create li directly. In that li you have to print the category, you have to print the category, and after printing the category append to, that means add to, so ol, that's it, add to ol. The same thing you know already, the same thing if I have to do in JavaScript or jQuery. So this work, actually you see it is ready, it's working. But that work generally in JavaScript or jQuery, in order to do it, we have to write like this. This is the for that we written in jQuery for reading and adding the elements into order list. But generally for where category of categories, in JavaScript what we have to do is first where li is equal to document dot create element li. After that we have to define li dot inner html category. After that, so document dot document dot get query selector, and we have to select that. So order list, into that we have to use append to, so li. This is how we have to write earlier, but now you can simply write in one line and you can see that it is working fine. That means it is able to handle that. Just this one line is enough. Not only for this, it is for even a drop down. Suppose I kept a drop down here. Into the drop down I want to add them. It's very simple. In that for, we have to use to create an option and close the option. And here for the option I have to display, so dollar category, that's it. And append to, you should append this to select element. That means it is added that list to the select element also. That's very simple. You already know earlier, in order to do that we have to depend on lot of element creation techniques. By using element creation technique we have to handle that. That means create ordered list, create unordered list, create options. Now it's very simple. That means whatever you learned in JavaScript, you are going to use it here, but the reference techniques will be so simplified that we can perform the functionality in a faster way without much effort to put here. You can manage it. And jQuery have introduced a iterator also, simple, because actually here problem is of will return only value, but it will not return property. To overcome that, so in jQuery they introduced an iterator which can read both property and value. Properties means 0, 1, 2 index numbers, both property and value. It can implement both property and value. How it can manage both property and values? So actually this is now changed to like this. See, that means we can write like this: dollar dot each, dollar dot each, and it should take the collection. Collection is categories, and it uses a callback function. This callback function will get a key and it will get a value, and every value must be added into this. That means I am removing this now. So here we need to add a value. That means here dollar value. So not key, every value must be added, value. So this is how we write. We can add the value. You can see it adds the value. It's working fine. You can add the key also. Suppose I want to print the key also, then temporarily I will put here dollar. I can access key. I can access key, and you can see the key also will come 0, 1, 2. So first remember, both are mandatory. You cannot simply use one. Both parameters are mandatory. You have to use key and value. Mentioning both parameters is simple, important, but using them depending on your requirement. So this is very easy technique of presentation. So, and your UI is very much cleaner. There is no references, logics and all. So this will improve the performance and it makes your code cleaner. So here I will show you tables generation. Everything is simple now. Everything is simple now. Let's see how it can happen. That means nested iterations also very simple. Tables creation also very simple. How nested iterations, see, and you remembered in JavaScript, nested iterations very lengthy, very complex actually. Tables and nested iterations are very complex, but it becomes very easy now. See, I am creating where some menu. The menu is an array of objects. You have category and electronics. In that we have products, and that is again an array. So we have like TV, we have like mobile, so that is under electronics. We have another object, another category, and here we have some like footwear and products, and we have the products like Nike casuals, and we have like Lee boot something. Now this I want to display in a nested way in an ordered list. In an ordered list I want to display. Then very simple actually to display that in an ordered list. So here we have to put a simple dollar each. Collection is menu and a callback function. In that we have key and value. And actually you can give any name because these are formal parameters. You can give any name. So, and here we have to write a simple option. First, we need to add a list item. Inside that, another child item. I will show you the techniques here. First, in that each, what I am doing, dollar, and create a list item. Okay. And this list item should contain, this should contain value category. That means the category name, and append to inside that iterator again dollar each. Here I am defining so inner key. So we are a callback function. Collection is value dot products, that is collection, and it uses a callback function. And here we defined as inner key and key, and we have inner value, inner key and inner value. So because we can't give the same name as above, now here we need to create and append to. That means means we need to define another. There are so many techniques. I will tell you various methods. Suppose here I need to create another list item. So another list item, we need to create another list item. So we need to create another list item. We are performing iterations, multi-level iterations and all. And this list item this time should contain inner value. It should contain inner value. It should read every value. So, and it should append to, so it should append to, so that some unordered list, or it has to add into an unordered list. Actually, we have to create a separate unordered list and add it earlier. But now you see here, I am just using. So that means we are using, you can see an UL unordered list directly, and that unordered list here, and that unordered list here, and this also append to the same order list. That means it should get that and display. This is a simple approach. Actually, it may look little confusion in the beginning level, but it is very simple actually. That means it is more better than your JavaScript. Why? Because you don't need to create them. You can just write them and put the dynamic value, whatever the dynamic value you want. So when you are generating tables, when you are generating like cards, all that becomes very easy now. Presentation becomes very easy. Even your fetching of data from the APIs, reading the data from API, presenting in a tabular form, everything simple now. For example, suppose see how to present tables and complex data when you are dealing with the presentation. Suppose now I will give here a simple technique. Here JQuery have its own AJAX calls, but before that we will use our general JavaScript AJAX. That means I can use here fetch method, and I am fetching data from http:// fakestoreapi.com/products and dot done. So dot done. So here we have to define dot then, and in that then we have to use response. Response implies response.json. We have to convert it. After that dot then, so we collect the data, and after collecting the data, what we have to do here, we have to use $each, read the data, and use a callback function, and this callback function will get the key and the value, and every value I want to present here temporarily. See, I am accessing here a list item, and we are accessing that value. So value dot title, that is nothing but product. Every product related title we are displaying, and append to ordered list. It should fetch the data from that API and get all the products and display 20 products are there. This is very simple now. That means earlier we have to use a lot of binding tabular form, present in a tabular, or I want to present like a card form. Now it's very simple here. How it is simple? See, I'm using a div, and for this div I will just put bootstrap also here. Link relation is equal to style sheet. href is node modules bootstrap this CSS, bootstrap CSS, and here I kept class container fluid, and here class margin top 2 and deflex and flex wrap, and here we have to add a card into the div. I will give ID for this as card. I will give the ID as suppose catalog. Now we are performing iteration, and here we need to design a card. Directly you can write a binding expression like dollar binding expression. Here in this binding expression, you can directly design a div, and for this div we can directly configure the class. We can directly configure the class as card and margin as 2. Okay, and in that we have an image, and image will have an src. Actually image src comes from value dot image. Then height is equal to 200, and class is equal to card image top. That's how we defined image. And below that we have another div, and in this div we are using the class called card body, and a card header, and in that card header we kept a paragraph, that is, and in the paragraph we want to display the display. So dollar and value dot title, we want to display the title, and this card must be appended. This card must be added into. This must be added into. That means after designing dot append to catalog hash catalog. So that means it will get that and it will display into the catalog, and a card is added here. We can define the card, so card width as 25. So then you can see all the cards are displayed like this. That's very simple. Earlier, to design such dynamic things, we have to do a lot of programming. Here it reduces. I am not saying that it is completely changed. Means completely different. Majority similar, just only the point is, instead of creating a card dynamically, creating an image dynamically, adding to a table dynamically, this now becomes very easy. Presenting the data becomes very easy. You can easily present the data. Now your manipulations and interactions also becomes easy. But some additional things we have to learn. How to handle the events and configure the events for the controls which are generated internally. Those I will show you. That means now what we can do is the same shopping cart example we have to replicate in this JQuery. In JavaScript, we done a shopping cart example. The same we have to do it by now JQuery. If we can do that, then we got idea of majority of the things. Now we need to learn how to use Ajax here instead of fetch. How JQuery Ajax methods are helpful. What is difference between JQuery Ajax and JavaScript Ajax? These basic things that we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will do that. Okay. In tomorrow's session we will discuss about this. I will upload a document about this. You can go through it, examples. Then tomorrow we will completely replicate JavaScript example into JQuery. Same example, but in JQuery how it becomes simple. Then we can learn some more additional effects in JQuery. Then we can do all our examples in JQuery only instead of JavaScript. That we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will do that. Okay. In tomorrow's session we will continue with these examples.